Let's go. Halftime. Meds and Jans, we're back at it. It's Wednesday. I don't know, April 28th, something like that. All these days feel the same right now, Wednesday. How's it going? Cody Jansen, Zach Medeiros with you. 12-ounce sports, halftime. It's NFL Draft Eve. We got a big one coming up tomorrow. Be sure to connect us in the comments. Doesn't matter what you're watching. YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, 12-ounce sports, Ingo TV. Hit us up. Any comments, questions, anything you got. Let's answer it today. Let's snap it over. Meds, how's it going, buddy?
Buddy, it's going good. I'll just kind of piggyback your comment there, COVID. Yeah, every day just kind of seems like a blur right now. I'm not getting the dates right at all lately, and not much to do, man, except just watch sports. It's just, which I don't mind at all either. So just give me all the sports I need.
Yeah, it could be a lot worse things to be doing. I kind of actually, now that we brought it up, I right away snapped over to the Robin Leonard comments about COVID. We'll dive into that a little bit later on. Today on the show, we're going to be diving into NFL draft, of course, maybe get a couple of mocks out there. CFL, they did announce a return to play. We'll dive into that. See, I know I've got some hot takes on a December 12th Grey Cup, so we'll dive into that. Nick David, on pace for 100 points. That's pretty crazy. The NHL now, a couple of new TV deals. They're looking at about $600 million right there. We're getting closer to the Olympics, and this is one that I kind of wanted to touch on last week and dive into a little bit. Should they be vaccinated? I'm seeing some countries jumping into it where they're saying, hey, Olympians, you're now up next. Interesting. We'll discuss that. Plus the MLB extra innings rule. With that runner on second, I don't know. I feel like a lot of the baseball traditionalist fans aren't too happy. I love it. I love the 7-inning games. I love all that. We'll dive into that later. But it's NFL draft talk coming up first. Actually, before we even get to that, what have you been up to? Obviously you're crushing sports, but is there anything else big going on for you?
No, man, just staying in shape, staying ready, working away here. Other than that, man, no, just getting my daily intake of sports, seeing what's going on. And as you said, that huge NHL deal is pretty awesome, right? So I'm curious to see what the panel's going to look like on TNT. I couldn't really imagine a guy like Charles Barkley calling games, although I've heard he's a huge NHL fan. But I'm very curious to see maybe they plug a guy like Biz Nasty from Spittin' Chicklets or Ryan Whitney to kind of make
if you could choose 3 hockey guys right now off the cuff, who would you put? I also want to know, if you're watching, hey, if you could choose 3 guys to be on an NHL panel on TNT, similar to what the NBA does, who are you going with, Mets?
Okay, so right away, the 1-2, it's got to be on, from what I've listened to, and there's a plethora of guys out there that you can choose from, but Paul Biznasty, has to be one of them. I've always been a fan of Ryan Whitney, and I don't know about you, but I'm a huge fan of TSN Overdrive. I wouldn't mind if the O-Dog Jeff O'Neill gets an attempt at that as well. I'd like to see him on there.
O-Dog's good, and I would love to see his personality come out a little bit more, and I think he could. I don't know what type of bag they'd be throwing at him. I go back to a guy like Jeremy Roenick. That's one who I think is good for the game of hockey. I know he, maybe said some things over the line on his Spittin' Chicklets strip, though. Yeah, 100%. Oh, we got Jeff jumping in here, or Tyler. Joe Thornton. That'd be an interesting one. I don't know. Thornton doesn't really jump out when I think of, guys who are characters in the game. Could be an interesting one there. I do think Jeremy Roenick would be number 1. I think an Ilya Bryzgalov. I still think that he is, would be a hilarious for the panel. Boy. A lot of personality there.
Yeah.
And
Bryzgalov, what a pick! That would be on my top 20.
I can't go with Bissonnette or Whitney because you picked them already. Oh, let me think. Who recently retired? Who would be good for the game? I don't know. Maybe a Sean Avery. I know that's a very controversial one, but someone like that, maybe not afraid to speak his mind. I feel like network TV, he'd get in shit right away.
Yeah.
But again, would be pretty funny. There's my picks. I don't know. I'm kind of excited. I don't think you're as big of an NBA guy either. I'm obviously not a huge NBA guy, but is TNT kind of the gold standard for their broadcasts? Is that kind of where they set the bar?
Yeah, you're right. I'm not going to come on here and, present myself as this big NBA analyst because I'm not. In all honesty, I'll jump on the Toronto Raptors bandwagon like it did back in 2019 when they made that.
100%. That was
exactly. It was great because obviously in the time I was with the Argos and our training camp wasn't too far from Jurassic Park was right in the middle of downtown, that little area where everyone was celebrating outside of the NBA Finals. So that was an electric time for the team to win. But yeah, getting back to your point though, with the panel they have there, I think that they bring kind of a different kind of cool, fun vibe. Especially whenever they get Shaq and Charles Barkley. I can never even tell if those guys really like each other or not because they always take digs at one another, which is it's hilarious to see. But just the way that they kind of talk about the game, and obviously the majority of that panel has played, so it's cool with their the little takes that they have night in night out with the NBA, and they keep it kind of lax and fun. That's why I bring up guys like Biz Nasty and O Dog because it's like you said, these guys bring a transparency to the game, to the analytics of the world, and they have that personality go along with it. And I think when you look at their NBA panel, they're kind of similar to that. So I can kind of see the NHL kind of adapting to that since they already have the guys on. If you watch Sportsnet, if you listen to various podcasts, guys with these personalities, I think would be able to fit the mold of what TNT is looking for the NHL.
I changed my pick. I'm going with Kevin Weeks. I love Kevin Weeks, actually. That's a guy who is great.
Goalie too, eh? A little biased, but...
Well, AKK will replace Brizgalov then. Go with Kevin Weeks. I think he's good. I think he's fun for the game. And not to dig against NBC. I mean, Patrick Sharp was good, but it's dry. It's all bland. It's all what you expect. I mean, if you're a hockey guy already, you're not really taking much from it. You're like, okay, they're just breaking down the play for me. Could have assumed that without their help.
And again, this is probably the third podcast I'm going to bring the Flyers, but they have been dog shit this year. Let's just be honest. So, it'd be nice to get an analyst coming on there and just saying, because they're all tight-lipped, and it's like you said, NBC. Yeah, NBC is very professional about the whole thing, but they're all thinking. I wish it's just like going into like the third period or in between periods, like there'd be one analyst like, oh, dog, just like they're dog doo-doo tonight. They need to pick it up. Like they all suck. You know what I mean? It's just like they always look at ways around it just to keep it still professional. It's like, guys, just be honest about the whole thing. Like no one's gonna care. No one's gonna be offended by what you say.
Do you like the regional broadcasts? I mean, I don't really know much about the Flyers. I think they're a Comcast team. I don't know if you even know if that NBC, still exists, actually. Whatever, yeah, NBC, Philly. Yeah. But, you think of your Nessens, you think of your Bally Sports. Are you a fan of those regional broadcasts, too?
I'm a huge fan of the Flyers feed. Yeah. I'm obviously, again, it's your NBC, and they have to keep...
Is it Jim Jackson who calls games there?
Jim Jackson, Keith Jones.
Yeah. Yeah, Keith Jones is great. Jim Jackson's good too.
But the one thing I love about it is that they're not homers. They're very honest about the Flyers. And this year, it's just you watched last night. They're down 3-0 and come back to tie 3-3, end up losing 6-4 in the final. But throughout the entire game, they said this team just doesn't have it. And at this point, people have to realize obviously they're not going to the playoffs anymore. They're rotating their prospects through the lineup. This is more of like an evaluation process now that AV and the rest of the staff, Chuck Fletcher, the GM, are just kind of rolling these guys through to kind of set up for the future and saying, hey, like, who do you want to keep going forward and who are we going to, kind of trim the fat and let guys go. And I think that's kind of, but they're very honest about where the team's at right now, which I do appreciate because it's, you look at, I'm not a huge fan of Nesson and the Bruins and what's that guy's name? Is it Jack Campbell?
Jack Edwards.
Jack Edwards, sorry. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I whenever the Flyers play the Bruins, I make sure I'm never watching on Nesson ever. That's never happening.
I love how Sportsnet steals the Nesson feed whenever possible because it's the cheapest one to grab. It's always my favorite there. But no, I mean, I wish I was watching sports last night. Had to make a couple of sacrifices. Watched a couple hours of Temptation Island. I don't know about you, but I mean that reality. Too. Okay, see? So, and I mean, I kind of had to make the sacrifice because I'm like, hey, babe, kind of going golfing this weekend. Won't see you on Saturday. So, I had to make the sacrifice for one day a week. So, yeah, I watched a couple hours of that show. Wow. Are you a reality TV guy or is your girlfriend?
Yeah. Oh, we both are. But the thing is that so you're 2 hours behind us. So the show doesn't start for us till it starts for 8 your time and then 10 from our time. So we're not really night owls anymore. Like a lot of times I have to get up early for work. But still, it's just like it's on 10 p.m. It's like, oh man, I can't it's only 1 hour. At the same time, why can't they put the show on?
It was 2 hours last night too.
With that reunion or whatever it was at the end there. But it is entertainment. I'm into the whole 90 Day Fiance.
Okay, we watch a decent amount of that. Big Brother Canada. You watch that one? Yeah. That's who do you got winning Big Brother Canada?
Man, I don't know. I have no idea.
I hope that. Oh my, I mess up his name every time. Tyshawn, Titchin, Ty, whatever his name is. I'm thinking he's gonna win that. Okay, we could talk reality TV for hours, but let's jump into NFL draft. Of course, you place on the bet. Go to mybookie.ag. Use promo code 120Z Sports. 12-ounce sports are hooking us up. NFL draft eve. Do you see any big moves being made before? I mean, obviously, I think it's pretty black and white. Trevor Lawrence is going number 1, but looking at some of the orders, I mean, I think the Jets are kind of locked in there. San Fran, I don't see them moving. Maybe the Falcons move their pick. Like, I mean, when you look at a mock draft, obviously I'd have to assume number 1's Lawrence for you, eh?
Yeah, he's like the surefire number 1. And I don't want to say after that it's a crapshoot. I think it's going to be rotated between a couple guys. Obviously, Zach Wilson's been creating a lot of buzz lately. I do like his game. And then you look at a guy like Justin Fields as well. He's up there, right? So it's going to be tough to kind of tell because, man, like you're looking, I think San Fran moved up a few spots the other day to get up there. And it seems like a surefire thing that with that number 3 pick that they're listed on, they're obviously going to take a QB, but it's just a matter of who's it going to be. And all these people have, them taking Zach Wilson. But, I mean, when you look at the schedule he played at BYU, I mean, the guy's a hell of an athlete, but it was a bit of a cupcake schedule, in my honest opinion. When you look at
I'm not a Zach Wilson guy. Everyone says the Jets are all in on Zach Wilson. So that's, I mean, a number 1 or a number 2 pick on Zach Wilson, a guy who got embarrassed by Coastal Carolina's defense this year.
That was the real competition.
That's as you said, a cupcake schedule. Love them or hate them. I think BYU is kind of frauds. You don't want to drop the fraud hammer on them right away. I'm not sold on them. And again, I'm not sold on Trey Lance either. I'm not one to go and hand him a top 5 draft pick just because he had one great season and he's got big hands. Yeah. I don't know. I wonder how much further, Justin Fields could slide. People might see his game and go, well, that's far. That's, the farthest from a pro style from the top 6 QBs in this draft.
But Cody, so the craziest thing is that people right now have, like, some draft boards have Fields going outside of the top 10, which like 6 months ago, the talk was Lawrence or Fields. Who take your pick? You can't go wrong. Yeah. It's like, how does that happen? The guy just went to the national championship.
I know.
It makes no sense to me.
There was someone on whoever Pardon My Takes guest was this week. Let me quickly look this up. They had Fields dropping unbelievably low. It was Todd McShay. So, I mean, big draft analysts there. They said, like, okay, Fields could drop out of like top 10, like top 10, no problem. Essentially is what they said. So that's tough. Who's this Stanford kid that everyone's talking about? Do you know who it is? Their quarterback.
QB?
Yeah.
Oh,
I wish I knew, but a lot of people are actually talking highly about this guy, saying he's one of the smart players in the league.
Another Andrew Luck?
Maybe. So San Fran at number 3. I think, okay, let's actually talk Trevor Lawrence, though, for a second. Where do you see his ceiling being? I mean, he's got all the attributes again. ACC schedule, maybe not the toughest. Clemson offense, I mean, he's surrounded with the best players in college football, or at least a lot of them.
Yeah.
It's a little tough when you're going to a team like Jacksonville. You're going to have to go through a couple of hurdles you've never seen before.
Yeah, I think they have the right management tools in place now, especially with Urban Meyer being over there. I think it's going to help his development process because, again, I understand it's the pros, but you're still taking a college kid 1 year removed from college anyway, right, and turning pros. And if there's anything Ramar's doing is the guy's a QB whisperer, right? I mean, look at what he's done in the past. The guys like Tim Tebow, right? Before that, Joe Burrow at Ohio State, Dwayne Haskins when he was there as well, right? All these QBs that he's turned into Heisman candidates over the years. And I would not be shocked in the slightest if he does the same thing with Trevor Lawrence. Even though it's at the pro level, it's not that far removed from the rules. And, at the end of the day, it's still football. And the guy's a hell of a coach. So I see it will be a process because, to be honest, it is Jacksonville. But I don't think their window's that far away. I give them 2-3 years where they, start to be at least competitive for the playoffs. Not to win it all, but at least competitive to be in the playoffs.
Wow, that's a hot take there. Davis Mills is the Stanford kid that I was thinking of their senior.
Davis Mills,
Couple of solid years. I see a lot of the Chicago Bears hype around him. Like, oh, this is our guy. This is our guy. It's like, yeah.
Andy Dalton's the guy.
Yeah. No, okay, let's not get sidetracked here with the Chicago Bears. I'll be ranting for an hour. I like Trevor Lawrence. I like his ability. I think anytime you get a chance to get a big kid, moves well, throws good, I think he does have the ability to be a difference maker. There's got to be some question marks. I mean, battling adversity is one of them. He's only lost 2 games in his college career. I don't think he's taken his lickings enough yet. So maybe he's been a little too coddled. Yeah, I don't know. Where I feel Justin Fields has battled more adversity, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Maybe doesn't have the on-paper resume. But again, I mean, I still think that Justin Fields is a lot further away from being a starting NFL quarterback than Lawrence. I mean, he's 2, 3, 4 years behind.
Yeah. Well, again, take your pick, right? I mean, both guys I think are going to be in the league for a long time. And they've both had their, not much, obviously, because again, which you cited here, they both play on the best programs in the country. So there's going to be a lot of games where it's not really a contest. But I remember looking back last year, there's a couple games where Fields struggled in the Big Ten championship against Northwestern a little bit. That was a time versus earlier on in the season. I remember in the middle of the year against Indiana when they kind of came out of nowhere. They almost it was an upset alert game for him, and he did not look great at all. The Hoosiers defense, geez, they got after him that day. But again, he found a way to win, and there's been games too where Lawrence, he's battled through his times with adversity as well, but he was able to get through. And I think he kind of got over the hump too when he was able to beat Alabama a couple of years back for the college football championship. So
what's your thoughts on that Jones out of Alabama? Mac Jones, I think. Yeah, Mac Jones.
He's good. I know he's a very solid QB. I think he's a system QB, and I think he's a product of his environment. We can just leave it at that.
Wow. No love for Bama at all.
No. Well, look who he has on his team. He had Jalen Waddle. He had Najee Harris and Devonta Smith. All those guys are going to go in the first round, including a few of their old linemen.
So there's a lot of praise for Devonta Smith too. Like, I mean, obviously he had an unbelievable year, but just hearing what some of the scouts and coaches are saying about this guy.
Jans, you want to hear a hot take? He is the best collegiate wide receiver I've ever witnessed, ever at that level.
Really?
Better than Julio Jones, better than Randy Moss. Yeah, this guy at that level, he is the best wide I've ever seen.
And this may sound stupid, and I mean, I'll blame it on being a hockey guy, but when I watch him, I mean, he's small, he's smart, he's quick. But if I had to take my pick tomorrow, there's still a chance I'm picking CeeDee Lamb over him. There's still a chance I'm picking CeeDee Lamb over him. I don't know. Maybe it's crazy, but when I just see 1 for 1, who do I want on my team tomorrow? I don't know. His name just doesn't. And when you say, product of his environment, defenses had to watch so many guys on Bama. It's not like you can just double team this guy every single play. They've got so many weapons around. Come the NFL level, I mean, he's going to be defended like he's never been before. And I mean, Alabama plays a cupcake schedule half the time too. So,
you think so? In the SEC?
Okay, not as bad as like an ACC one, but I mean, come on. When every single receiver is putting up 200 yards on, Citadel, or they're playing California Community College for the blind, it's kind of like, it's like, okay, your homecoming week, that's awesome. You had 300 yards and 5 touchdowns, but do it in the finals.
I get you, but he did do it, man.
Okay.
Look at the national championship.
He's good. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I don't know if he's the best college receiver of all time. He might as well, he's going to be in that conversation.
Yeah.
But again, I don't know how do you think he goes top 10 then?
Yeah, I think he'll be top 10. I don't agree with it. I don't as much as I do love him. It's just other teams' focuses, they always like to make that sexy pick when they should focus on, starting with the foundation, taking old linemen and D linemen, right? And just start with the linemen first and then build around your skilled players afterwards. It's just
Who do you think takes him then? A Cincinnati?
Cincinnati or Eagles, maybe. Eagles need a weapon. Eagles need a
Yeah.
weapon right now.
When are the Eagles picking? They're not top 10, are they? I don't know.
Eagles are 7th, 8th, I think.
Oh, I thought that's Lions, Panthers. Maybe I got an old list here. I don't know.
Yeah,
But yeah, at the end of the day,
be.
I could see
somewhere in that neighborhood.
Yeah, that's fair. It's an interesting one. San Fran with the third pick. You're saying Fields. Do you think he's going to be the guy, or else do you think he goes?
Yeah,
because I'm pretty. Everything I've heard, it's going to be Lawrence, Wilson, and then you've kind of got a free for all. You've got Fields, Jones, Lance.
Yeah. If Wilson goes second, you gotta take Fields. If you're looking at, and if you're San Fran right now, obviously they're looking at a quarterback. You're looking at a guy who can do well. He's very, and I say this a lot to people, is very Deshaun Watson like. You look at a QB in today's game, you gotta be mobile. You gotta be able to make all the throws, go through your reads process, go through every reads from 1, 2, and 3, and he checks off every box. He's like Trevor Lawrence. He does all that. He can run. He ran like a 4.4 at his pro day. The guy has a cannon of an arm. I mean, if you watch that semifinal against Clemson, I mean, he was putting that on showcase. He showcased that very, very well. And he can make every throw. He can throw off his back foot. He can step in the pocket. He takes hits. I mean, you saw him come back against Clemson when he took that shot off the ribs there. He missed only like 3 or 4 plays and came back, and you can tell he was wincing in pain. So I'll never question that kid's toughness either. And again, we always we're going back to Zach Wilson a little bit here, and I'm on your side here. He does not check off every box for me. I'd be very, very hesitant to take that guy second overall. He is not, in my opinion, he's not a first round pick. And if they just decide to go that route and take him, ooh, that's a risk, because Fields is the surefire guy, in my opinion, who's waves ahead of that guy.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see. I think that they kind of get the over-under set around 5.5 QBs, so those top 5 are definitely set in there. I think there's a lot more questions around Trey Lance, and maybe this is because it's just around draft time, right? We're a day away, we're asleep away. Everyone, well, maybe you should wait off on Trey Lance. He's only been a starter for 1 season. I mean, it's not his fault. The FCF season was canceled this year, pretty much.
So is Joe Burrow, right?
Yeah, so when you think of like one and done QBs, I get it. Haskins. I think Trubisky was a one and done, was he?
Yeah, I think 1 or 2 years, whatever it was, but still, I mean, didn't really pan out. But yeah, it's I love to be a fly in the room for some of these NFL organizations and how they get so excited for these guys. It's like I said, one and done years, and guys who were never even talked about or like wasted of like breath about the being in the like entertained in the first round talk until they're like final year. It's like, oh, this guy came out of nowhere. Yeah, he's really best paying like $20 million a year. It's like, what? Like, why not just go with the surefire thing? It's like Josh Rosen like 3 years ago for the Arizona Cardinals, and you know what? He actually did have a pretty steady NFL career, but then Arizona wasted 2 years in a row taking like a QB in the first round, when you knew for sure that year they weren't going to make the playoffs anyway. So why not draft a wideout? Why not draft like a franchise O-lineman, shore up the O-line, or a run, like a D-end or something. Instead, you go 2 years in a row and you take a QB. So for me, yeah, you have to take the surefire thing. The guy who's been getting it done from day one, till the NFL draft. That's the guy I'm always going to take, not some guy who just flies under the radar, because that's such a risk. I don't want to put all my chips in one table for a guy where it's like, hey, yeah, he had a pretty average NFL career, and then like he decided to go through like the transfer portal or whatever his situation was, and now all of a sudden he had one great year, kind of like Zach Wilson. I didn't hear about Zach Wilson until like earlier on, like after like week 3, after he beat Idaho Community College, if we want to go down that route, right? So it's like, I don't care if he throws 7 touchdowns that game. Like, who the hell they got on their team?
Where does U Sports football compare on the college football map? Are we talking and let's take the top teams. Let's take Laval. Let's take Calgary. Are they FCS? Are they able to compete with your like Montanas, your North Dakotas? Are they close there? Are they I don't know. Like, let's put up Laval against North Dakota. What do you think the final score would be? Like, are we
what
talking
rules are we playing here? Are we playing Canadian rules or American rules?
American rules? American rules.
Oh, then it's going to be North Dakota State for sure.
Well, yeah, but like by how much? I feel like
By how much?
North Dakota State would win in CFL rules too. I believe.
I think Laval could keep it interesting in Canadian rules. They're a very organized team and execute. They always have a really good team. I used to have this conversation all the time with a few buddies of mine. They're definitely not FBS level, but you're right. I'd say FCS 1A, AA. I would say if we're playing American rules, North Dakota State probably hangs. They probably beat them by like 30.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think
I was thinking 30 as well. I was thinking 30 as well would be a reasonable number. And I mean, even playing up here, I think you got to say, 15 to 20 is just like when you're looking at top. I think, if it's Montana against Laval, now you're looking at a 1-score game.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe either side of the border. Maybe, I don't know. I feel like also U Sports is a little bit older, even when it comes to hockey too. But like a U Sports team, you might have some older players versus college where a lot of these guys are coming in as true freshmen.
Right.
They don't really, utilize a junior system at all. I don't know. Maybe that's just me coming from a hockey background. But I feel that, though, if you put a U Sports on par with a middle-of-the-pack FCS team, U Sports probably hangs in there no problem.
Well, it's funny you actually bring that up because, again, the Q is the only province where they have that kind of junior college program.
Yeah.
You want to call it SAGEF. So you're talking about 22. I think we actually talked about this last week, too. We have a bunch of early 20 guys in their freshman year going up against 18, 19-year-olds from the U.S. So it could get interesting because, obviously, they're older. And, the development process is a little bit more, but at the same time, it's just the coaching is way different. The workouts are way different down there. It's hockey here in Canada and it's hockey up in Portugal. One's up here and one's, Canada's not far off, but again, it's not the same thing.
The way they train is insane. When I was down in Missoula for grade 11, just seeing how Loyola, and they were Class B in Montana, like they were state champs that year. But, dude, like in the morning, they're lifting weights. After school, they're doing cardio. Then it's practice time. Then it's homework. I mean, like Loyola was a smart school too. So, like, not easy to, do well in school and athletics there. But these guys were grinding. Like, I thought I worked hard playing, like, junior hockey. No.
Yeah.
No, like these guys, something else.
I'll give you a funny story. Back in my grade 9, grade 10 year of high school, I made the trip up for the senior team and to kick, obviously. Yeah. And we were playing against a school in Cincinnati, and they were, again, like I think the 5A or like 6A are like the top teams in the state, and Ohio has a boatload of high schools. A ton of them.
A lot of big cities.
Yeah, and then I think this team was they were good, but they're like a middle of pack, AA, like 3A team or whatever. And I remember I heard stories after, like, when I talked to my coaching staff, like years removed from high school, about that game, because obviously long story short, we got shellacked by like 50 points. But when they were making arrangements for that game, like we were saying, okay, well, where can we stay? Where's the nearest hotel? Like all the itinerary stuff was just kind of getting moved out of the way early on. And they're asking us, oh, do you want like a bus for your band or whatever? Because we really needed 2 for our like staff and coaches, and like band. Like, what do you mean band? Like, oh, like I assume you guys like a high school band's gonna play the game. Like, no, we have like a few girls who are like cheerleaders, or like we have a guy who might play the flute or something if you want that, and have that like the triangle as well if you want to bring him. Right? We're like
different.
At that moment, I think they realized that we have, what are we getting ourselves into here? Man, I remember getting there. We just got beat down. Like the first series of the game, man, I knew right away just the vibe of the game. Like, this is horrible. Like, we're not organized. We just showed up to have a good time. This team's taking it seriously. And they probably had like 3,500 fans out to the game. We get like our family and parents, which amounts like 100 people. We're like, we don't belong here. This is not the same level of football. And this is the middle of the pack, like 2A team that's handing to us. Imagine if it was against like a 6A, like a legit team. We have to forfeit at halftime.
Yeah, no, it's different where pretty much every school in the States is getting, I mean, like, especially at solid high school, you're getting thousand plus at the games. Like it's a community event. Even when my dad was playing in Swift Current High School, he was telling me that they went down and played Malta, tiny town down in the States there. They're a Class C team. And he said they put up a 70 on them. Like he's like we just got smacked by this town of like 200 people, and like it was just insane, the difference. But again, I think a lot of it comes down to that training and preparation, because I've seen Canadian high schools in Saskatchewan, Alberta. It's not even close. I mean, you think of like your cream of the crop, your Bev Facey out in Edmonton, Sherwood Park here, where like Chuba Hubbard, those guys come from. It's good. Again, I still don't want to see them play a Class B team in Montana.
No, picture Chuba Hubbard, running like a dive play or like a trap play against the Calgary Dinos, and you tell me who's gonna like tackle him. It'll take a 4 or 5 guys to bring a guy like that down.
Yeah,
every time.
I wonder where. I mean, speaking of Chuba, now that we've brought him up, and I used to watch him a ton, just covering sports up here. Obviously, any Saturday I could watch him and call it work, I would do it. But like last year wasn't good for him on his standards. Going back to school was the worst decision he could have made. I mean, he was up for top 10 Heisman talks. Yeah. He was the running back of the year. He was breaking Big 12. What's that? It's Big 12. Yeah. Okay. Big 12 records. Like this, that was his time where he would have been a second round pick, I believe, maybe a third. Now, where does he go? Sixth round, maybe seventh.
Yeah,
I'm not confident even in that. I mean, he might get passed up on. That's how crazy it is in the NFL world, where if you're not opportunistic, and I want your opinion on this. You're a football player too. You're a professional.
Yeah.
If you've got the chance to go to the NFL, to make a name for yourself, to make money, what does education benefit you? And I get it. They go, well, it's an extra year to get bigger, stronger, faster. Sure, but if that's the difference in you signing your first NFL contract for $5 to $10 million, I mean, I don't know what second rounders are getting. Let's say $5 million.
Yeah.
Instead you go back to school and you kind of have a rough year, and now all of a sudden you're looking at million. I don't know what's a 6th, 7th rounder get if they make the team. I mean, you're looking at a practice roster spot.
Yeah.
They're not chucking around money for you. Now all of a sudden you just lost that bag because you made a bad choice. Maybe it's your agent telling you something. Maybe it's your parents. Maybe it's your gut. I don't know. Where do you stand on that? Like I'm pretty harsh maybe in saying he made a terrible choice, but I think that's the honest opinion.
It was an interesting choice because you're right. Based on the season he had last year, I thought, okay, the way that they're talking about him, there was even some mock drafts where he was going late first round. Late first round mocks. I'm like, man, like this might, and then, you know what I mean? Like, I think when you make the choice to go back to school, unless he wasn't done like schooling yet, like, and I respect that if you want to get that out of the way before you kind of take on the NFL, because who knows what happens. You might, knock on wood, don't have like.
I gotta cut in here. You can do schooling whenever. I'm a firm believer you can do schooling whenever, and everyone goes, well, it's paid for. Yeah, I don't think 30 grand.
You can't put a price on
guy. Yeah, 30 grand isn't much to a guy who's just signed an NFL deal, especially if you're a first, second pick. You
should be set. No, I 100% agree with you. I'm just saying maybe like his thought process was that, but at the same time, if you're him, you gotta think who's going to be coming back. If I decide to come back for my senior year, what kind of team are we going to have? Are we going to be able to compete for the Big 12? Because you also don't want to lose out on your draft status. Like, this is a running back. He still needs competent, like, O-line in front of him to help him get the same season that he was able to replicate in his junior year, right? So you don't want to lose that status. You want to stay in that radar within the first, at least the first round to like the third round. And now you look at the running backs coming out of this year's draft. You have Travis Etienne from Clemson. Right, you have Najee Harris, who the Steelers are really high on. That guy is probably going to go in the first round. He wasn't really talked about until this year, right? And then now you have Williams from North Carolina. He's another guy who wasn't really talked about this year. He's a second-round pick. Trey Sermon only came on the scene like the last 3 or 4 games for Ohio State. He's been talking about getting drafted in like the 3rd round now. So it's like I haven't heard Tua's name come up once. And you know what I mean? Like he's fallen so far out of it. And I hope he does because I think he's a very capable running back. He's solid, he's fast, he's strong. He can adapt very well at the NFL level, but it's the risk you take. And if you have a very kind of average year and like you said, not the year that he was probably anticipating of having come back for his senior year, he probably wanted to leave off what he had in his junior year. And now he's probably going to slide down to like the 5th and 6th round.
He's ranked number 10 out of all draft eligible running backs right now.
Yeah. And last year he was like what, like 2 or 3 around there?
Yeah,
probably?
he was like 2. Yeah. Like he would have been right up there, 2, 3, as you said. So instead of being around, I can't remember who was the top, running back picks last year. Was it Etienne or no, he's this year, that Clemson guy. I can't remember. There were some unreal running backs too in that. So instead of being around those guys, now he's with guys from like Roundtree out of Missouri, Patterson out of Buffalo, Brightwell out of Arizona. You literally just drop down to Maction rankings instead of, man, as you said, like it's got to be millions and millions he's missing out on.
Yeah.
By not going in the draft. Is there anyone, that you're thinking is a kind of a sleeper this year in the draft, or any, players who you think maybe they're not getting talked about enough? That, you brought up Smith, who you're pretty high on. Is there anyone else on your list?
Oh, there's a guy. There's an old lineman out of what's his name? That guy from Whitewater. This monster of a guy. I might have to look him up, but he comes from Wisconsin Whitewater, and he destroyed the that
Bowl. D3 guy.
Yeah.
I know who you're talking about. I don't know his name, but
I'll find
that's a big one. Who's that? The Purdue receiver there, Moore.
Yeah.
He's a guy who doesn't have much help, but Rondell Moore. Yeah, he's a guy who I think, just watching him a couple of times and seeing a bunch of highlights recently, obviously there's some recency bias in there. I think he's a guy who, people might be sleeping on a little bit, but will be interesting to see. Did you find that D3 guy's name or no? I remember seeing the Senior Bowl highlights. This guy looked like a beauty too. Like
Nate Truin?
Yeah, maybe something like that.
Yeah, Nate Truin. This guy, but I honestly, I remember watching. I never watched the entire Senior Bowl. Honestly, I usually just watch the game. I watch some drills, but usually I don't really pay attention to the 101s for O-line and D-line. But when you were handling the D-line like this guy was, I was ready to start watching Friends or something, split up multi-screen. I exited out that real quick. I'm like, hold on, who the hell is this guy? I see him wearing some helmet. I never see him the logo. I'm like, what school is this? It's like an NAIA school, D3 NAIA. And I'm like, and then they start talking about how this guy, obviously not Mike Mayock anymore, but one of those draft analysts where we're talking about how he's going to be sleeping under the radar and they'd be a potential diamond in the rough. And I'm like, how is this guy not ranked higher than what he is for what he's doing to these linemen? I get it. He plays in D3. He's obviously not going to catch that much buzz from playing down there. But, man, he dominated. He looked really good. So I'd be surprised if that guy slides up in the 2nd or 3rd round. He'd be super.
I do remember all the buzz on him, too. There's a couple of good offensive tackles as well that people are pretty high on. Everyone knows you don't, protect your quarterback now. You're going to be in some trouble there. Okay, moving along. CFL Return to play. They just kind of announced it, hopefully starting in August, I believe, right? Correct me if I'm wrong here.
Yeah, August 5th.
Playoffs in November.
Target date.
Cup. Target date. We'll go with that. And then Grey Cup, December 12th. I won't give my thoughts on that yet. But again, it's a date. It's something that they are looking forward to, something that they're planning for. We don't even have golf courses open in Ontario. It seems like such a far-fetched right now that, the States is open. You're best off if you want to have a CFL season, go play it in the States. Because up here, and I'm not a COVID expert, I'm not a doctor by any means, it seems like the variants are always the focus of talk right now, whereas in the States, does not seem like that's a concern. So if it just keeps getting pushed back, I could see us, not getting to start on time. And it's August. I mean, I'm sorry to say, I know it's your livelihood, and I hate to be the bearer of bad news or a negative pessimist person. August is 3 months away.
Yeah, it's gonna sneak up on you, man.
3 months flies like nothing, man. Like last week was Christmas. I mean, it's not a long time, but I mean, from what you're hearing, from what your buddies have been saying, like, I mean, obviously it's positive news that you get a start date.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, what's the buzz around your world?
Well, and it's funny because the last time we kind of finished up the last episode, I was talking down about the CFL and how it wasn't going to get underway. And like literally 2 minutes later, you text me saying that there's a start date. I'm like, come on, man. Like, Jesus, where am I getting my resources from?
Well, I know it. I should have broke it before. I literally had, from what I was talking to guys about, they're like, yeah, this is going to be announced. This is literally what everyone's planning. And I'm like, yeah, that sounds pretty optimistic, guys. Like,
very optimistic, right? No worries. And it just seems like, we went through this thing last year in like September, like that whole bubble talk in Winnipeg was supposed to happen. Obviously, that didn't come in fruition. And now this year, there's a set date. August 5th. But again, there's like 2 stipulations here. It's, what's the role going to be for the vaccinations, right? Are you going to get every player vaccinated? And on top of that, the other option is we need fans back in the stadium. Like, look, the CFL is a gate-driven league. You need the fans. You need parking. You need concession stands, all that stuff, right? That's how they make their money, especially for the home game activity, which I brought up before. You need those things to play out in order for the CFL to be a successful league. And it's like you just brought with a new variant. How are they going to be able to bring out all these vaccines in time for that, right? So, if they open up for fans, that means that the NHL, I feel like the NHL would have to be the first league to open up for fans before they even get that option too.
Although the NHL is indoors, I'll give one curveball to that.
Yeah.
I also I want to say I feel owners are gonna be wanting players to take a pay cut, which shortened season. I mean that's expected to be a negotiation tactic. But I also feel, and this might be totally wrong, I don't own a CFL team by any means, but if these owners see a decline in fan attendance, and I'm talking about a market like Toronto. Is Toronto the lowest for fan attendance in the league? Montreal?
Yeah, they'd be up there. Yeah.
So if Toronto, if fan attendance drops more because of people scared to catch COVID or uncomfortable going outside, hey, you're allowed your own comfort level. I'm not judging you there. But if that attendance drops now, if sponsorship drops, are these owners going to be, wanting more give back from the players? Because I don't think that's right either. I think there needs to be a hard set agreement in place of this is what we're going to play for no matter what. And that's that. It's kind of what the NHL had to do to get guys into the bubble. Here's what's happening. It's not we're gonna decide once we see the numbers, once we see this. It's no, here's what's happening. We're gonna play no matter what. This is how it's gonna be done. And that's that.
Yeah. And you know what? You actually kind of brought up an interesting point about them playing down south. Because when you think about it, now every province, they all have their own kind of set of laws right now. So, and where we are in Ontario, it's like I said, we have no golf. Some rules are a bit different from where you are in Alberta, right? So if you open this, return to play and fans are allowed, is that just going to be for certain provinces? Is Ontario still going to be, they have to kind of get on board with that as well. So are the East teams going to play a lot of their games out West? How is that going to work exactly for the first little bit? So there's a lot of variables that still need to be worked out. But I mean, playing down in the U.S. for a little bit could be it's not a bad idea. It's just, I feel like it had to be something that's already talked about because it's like you said, August 5th is not that far removed from now. They have a lot of stuff to figure out and a lot of barriers to overcome. So if they can figure out a way to get all these games in action, regardless of where they are, honestly, I don't think people care anymore where they're going to play games. It's just that the games actually happen, that you actually get a season underway because these players need to make money. They can't afford to be sitting around anymore doing nothing. Like they need to get back to what they're best at, and that's playing football.
Do you think if they chose to play without fans, and maybe that's a stupid one to say, would they be better off to go, find a stadium in the States where restrictions are loosened or something versus having to go through all of the Canadian hurdles I guess there's probably a lot of visa stuff there where I'm saying, like, would it be worth it to just set up in the States to be like, hey, you know what? The government hasn't given us approval right now. We got a plan. We're 2-3 months out. We just got to find a stadium where we can set up a CFL field in a bubble, and we're just going to play there. You just got to commit to something. That's what I'm saying. Is you can't just be like, well, let's hope that the government follows through on what they say. Let's hope we can have full fans in August. There comes a point where you got to stop hoping.
Yeah,
and that's where pessimist Cody comes in. The WHL, take them for example. Saskatchewan, Manitoba, they stopped hoping. They said, we're doing it in a Regina bubble or we're not playing. It's a take it or leave it, Saskatchewan. Do you want it? Health authorities, here's our plan. Here's what we're going to do. Take it or leave it. Boom, they got approved. OHL, well, let's hope they loosen restrictions. Let's hope maybe we can set up a couple of bubbles. Let's hope maybe they let us play in Michigan. Let's hope we'll do this. Nope, push it back. Well, maybe we should pitch a bubble idea now. Yeah, maybe the government doesn't want that. Maybe they don't want the American teams. And by that, it's too late now. Now they can't have a season. They ruined the season for the OHL players because they didn't have a hard set plan saying take it or leave it. Here's what we're doing. We're following every single possible protocol. And I don't know. They failed the kids in the OHL, that's for sure. And that's why I don't want to see the CFL go down the same road. It's for guys like you. It's for guys who need to play football, need to get a paycheck, need to stay sharp. I mean, there's so many opportunities for CFL guys, for young guys to break in, or maybe it leads to an NFL opportunity that they're not going to get because the CFL is not saying hard set return this date. Here's the plan, no matter what. Yeah,
and I agree with you. I think unless they've already been having talks about, find a market down there or somewhere in Canada where, like the rules are going to be a bit loose, where you can kind of set up shop and play all these games for the first little while until every province is kind of on the same page and saying, hey, listen, we're ready to host our respectable teams now in our host province, right? Yeah. But that is a pretty cool idea. I'd want to find somewhere where, maybe it's at a northeastern state in the Montanas, maybe that way it's still kind of close to home, where you find a town or like a North Dakota where it's a very hungry town, city looking for a pro franchise, and you kind of roll in all these CFL teams, right? And they all play in there for the next 2-3 months. How cool would that be, right? Especially for like towns who love football.
And you'll get some fan revenue down there too. I mean, restrictions have been lifted in North Dakota, Montana. They got like 50% of the people, 60% of the people vaccinated. They're played in front of full barns.
Exactly.
You can make a little bit of gate revenue down there. And as you said, maybe it is something where you set it up temporarily, with the, kind of the knowledge of being like, hey, we might stay all the way through to December and play out the full season. Or if we get the green light, we're going to come back to Canada. So I don't know.
If you put a proper plan in place there where, it makes sense and it could work, especially from a marketing standpoint, why would MLSC not want to be in on that?
You got to think TSN's all in for that too, because another season without CFL revenue for them, that's
getting that danger zone now. That's the thing.
Well, I mean, they're NHL rights for them. Their hype's gone. I mean, we've already talked about that a little bit, but with the new NHL deal, it's transitioned into that. Now you've got TNT, is it TBS? The other one, you got ESPN. You got all of these other major media players taking over Rogers in Canada. TSN needs something. They're not getting the NHL money anymore. It's I don't know. CFL is kind of their big thing. I think they're kind of big into curling too. I think they've got soccer, but yeah. Interesting. What was your thoughts on the new NHL TV deals? I mean, $600 million. That's where they're going to be bringing in like next year, 2022. That's wild, isn't that?
That is pretty wild. I'm excited for that. And I knew we already touched on, who the potential panel could be going into that too. So I'm really curious to see who that'll be. In the same token, I'm a little sad because MBS is going to be going. I know they've been covering for the past 10 years. You look at guys like Don Emmerich, and obviously he's gone now. But then you look at guys like Eddie Olchuk was on that panel as well. Pierre Maguire is he going to be tagged along with them?
They'll find landing spots. I'm pretty confident Pierre will find a landing spot. Someone like him.
You need him behind the glass. He needs to be behind the glass somewhere, right? Well, it's NHL Network, whether it's there, you got to find it. He's too big of a personality not to get a role somewhere. You're right. But
goalie guy, I like Brian Boucher too. goalie guy.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course, right? Former Flyer, not a
Yeah.
big deal.
Yeah.
And no, I think it's awesome. Again, at the end of the day, money talks, right? And for the NHL, it was honestly, it was a deal that just made sense, and it brought in more money. So they'd be stupid not to.
Yeah, that's I really wonder like what the MLS deal is, what the CFL deal is, because now this has to put hockey in not a class of its own, but a solid middle class where obviously NFL's number one, then it's MLB and NBA, and now NHL. They should be sitting in fourth with this. You'd have to assume.
Well, and you're gonna have more people tuning in now. I saw a thing the other day in an article I was reading that TNT alone, like the sports network, it's on 90 million homes in the U.S., which I don't know what it was for NBC in the past, but I don't ballpark it. It was probably nowhere close to that. If I
did you see the? Oh, sorry. Go.
No, go ahead. No, I was going to say. So for those states down south and like Texas, Oklahoma, like Florida, all the way around there, you're going to start seeing more people tune in to NHL when they weren't really paying attention to hockey. More basketball fans saying, "Oh, I got a hockey game. I can throw it on for a little while," and that's what it's all about. It's marketing, right? So it's going to captivate more of an audience for them.
Speaking of more people tuning in, did you see TNT's graphic where they showed the Andrew Ference? What?
Is that with Ovi on the other side? Yeah.
That's awesome. That shows how much some Americans, and I'd assume they're centered down south, follow the NHL. I thought that was hilarious, especially Ference being a guy from up here in Edmonton area.
That's yeah.
What a choice too. Like they'd be like, "Oh, just need the Edmonton Oilers captain. Like this looked like the guy. Sure, why not?
Why throw him on there? Yeah, former captain too, man. Have some respect for him.
That he was. I mean, Ference, great guy. Pretty sure his wife actually works up here in Fort Sask too. Okay, we got a couple more topics to get to. McDavid, 100 points. I mean, possible? You think he does it? Yes, no. He's in a class of his own right now.
What are we at? How many games they played? 46. So they got 10 games left.
Something like that.
I think he was. I saw him on a list today. He was like they had Yager 31 games to get the 80 points or whatever. It's impressive. I can see him getting a 90. It's gonna be very tough to get to 100 from here on out.
He needs like 17 or 18 more points in his last 10 games. I want to say that's just like spitballing something. It's possible. It's tough. He's gonna need a couple of big games.
I guess I didn't think of it that way, but you gotta assume there might be like 2 games there where he might just get a point or no points.
Yeah, I know.
As well, but with him, honestly, like I wouldn't be shocked. I'm gonna say my cutoff will probably be around like 93, 94 points, which is, I mean, geez, who else is gonna be doing that?
Do you think NHL teams, once the playoffs are set this year, once your positioning set, will go into NBA load management style and rest guys? Because I feel in a year like this, where games have been condensed more than ever, load management could be the reason a team wins a first round. Think about it from a West perspective. Once Colorado or Vegas locks up that top spot, if you got 2-3 games left, you should be sitting McKinnon, Rantanen, Landeskog, Grubauer, Makar. You should be resting these guys up, I feel.
Yeah, I agree. I don't see why not, honestly. The last thing you need is some stupid injury for like a meaningless game at the end of the year where you have your star player go down. It just wouldn't make any sense. And, when you look at the McDavids, the Matthews, the McKinnons of the world, and you have your playoff spot, whether it's like a 2 or 3 seed, but you're going to be in the playoffs no matter what, is it really worth it to battle out for that one extra spot? Like, if you're good, you're good. You're going to have an opportunity to win it anyway, especially in a unique years that we've had that past couple seasons anyway. So yeah, I'm on board with that. I definitely wouldn't want to be risking injury, especially with guys like that in my team, because you need those guys to go all the way. That's your bread and butter right there.
Yeah, I gotta agree with you there. Okay, quickly, MLB extra innings rule. I don't know how much of a baseball guy you are. Love the Cubs, love the Jays. What's his name there? Vlad Jr. Hat-trick homer there. That was pretty wild. But see, the extra innings rule is what keeps getting talked about on my social media feed. Do you like it with them starting a runner on second base? Because I love it. I think that MLB extra innings, this kind of just means that 10th inning means so much more. It's kind of like the NHL going to 3-on-3 overtime. Now I know I'm not going to have to watch 5 more innings of baseball. I know that there should be an ending here in the 10th or 11th inning. I love it. I don't know why people hate it, but I think it's more of a traditional sport.
So explain this rule to me really quickly. So how is this working exactly?
So basically, like once the 9 innings are done, you go to your extra innings. In the 10th inning, each team, like each kind of inning, they start with a runner on second. So you automatically have a runner on base in position to score, technically.
Gotcha. Okay.
Everyone's freaking out about it. I think it's good. I think it kind of speeds up the game a little bit.
Yeah.
In a sport that can be very slow. And then there's also the whole 7-inning game where Buddy throws a no-hitter there. But since it's a 7-inning game, it's not considered a no-hitter. I think the MLB kind of jacked him on that one.
Yeah. Doesn't make any sense. I actually do like that. And you're right. I'm not a huge baseball guy. I'll hop on the bandwagon if the Jays may make the playoffs. So you don't have to worry about that. But
couple years down the road.
Yeah, but yeah, exactly. But it does speed up the process, and because it's like you said, there's a lot of games where if there's nothing on TV, I'll throw on the odd Jays game, and sometimes it's like watching paint dry. There's not much going on, right? You might see a few seagulls run by and leave it at that. But yeah, I think it will definitely speed the process, and it'll keep the fans more kind of reeled in too. Especially I wouldn't call myself a natural fan, but if I'm watching the game or like live at the game, like, oh, this is cool. And then now we're in extras. There's a runner on second. You get more on the edge of your seat saying, okay, they can win it right here with a solo home run, or you know what I mean? Just something like that. So I think it's a really good idea. I think I think the MLB is obviously trying to figure out ways how to kind of not just speed the process, but make the game more exciting for viewers like me, where I don't really find it that exciting, right? So I don't mind them bringing new ideas to try to make the game more creative and exciting for its viewers.
I agree. It's kind of like that minor league baseball league, the Pioneer League out in Montana, Idaho. They're instead of extra innings, they're doing a home run derby now for instead of like playing extra innings. So I love that. Okay, one more. I mean, don't want to go all Joe Rogan here, but the Olympians vaccinated. That's another hot topic coming up on social media. I know some countries like Australia are doing it. I'll give my 2 cents here quickly. I think they are. I think they're borderline essential workers based on how much money the Olympics brings in. And that revenue, it changes the world. Not just one country, it changes the world. How much revenue, how much jobs, how much economy the Olympics drives. So yes, I do think Olympians should have the option. Should it be mandatory? Again, I'm not one to speak on that, but should they have the option? I think so.
Yeah, man, it's like we're on the cusp of being mandatory for me because if you have, and again, they're all staying at the Village too, right? They all have their own thing that they stay at, so they kind of stay away from the public. So you could get away with it, but the thing you wouldn't want to have is that if one person gets it or 2 or 3 people get it, that's a domino effect. And within other countries, then they start to get it, and now you can't compete anymore. Then it's going to piss off a lot of people, and it's what's going on. Like, I look forward to watching the 200-meter final. I look forward to watching every sprint final out there. Right. It's just, I wouldn't want that to happen, especially even with like soccer. I want to tune into that as well. And there's a few cases of COVID just because someone decided not to get the vaccine. It's like, well, come on, guys. Like it's kind of the deal here for every athlete. I think every athlete, every country should get vaccinated at some point. I don't know what the role would be for vaccinations at that point. We have to go in for your first and second visit, but just get it out of the way. If you want to compete, you should be vaccinated.
There you go. That's it. Halftime. Done. Meds and Jams. That was a fun one. I thought that was good. We're running out of time here, though. Any last thoughts? Any last hot takes you got?
Steelers draft Najee Harris 24th overall. We need a running back. I know you're not a fan of the sexy picks in the draft, but we need a running back. We've been basement in the league for the past 2 years in the run game. Draft Najee Harris.
You heard it there first. Zach Medeiros, Cody Jansen with you. Halftime. Meds and Jams. Till next week, everyone.